Hi everybody, today we're going to be talking about another German grammar topic. Today is a lot of fun because we get to talk about compound nouns. If you haven't seen the German with Puppets video that goes with this, go ahead and click on that button up there. In the meantime, let's go ahead and get into this. First thing is, there are a few rules about how to put together these nouns. You can't just kind of willy-nilly throw words together and then just hope that they're okay. There are some grammatical rules that we need to know about how to make compound nouns in German. So, first thing on here, it asks you, how do you know what the gender of a compound noun is when there are multiple nouns together that have different grammatical genders? So in other words, if the first noun is masculine and the end noun is feminine, how do you choose between masculine and feminine? Well, that one's relatively simple. It's the last noun in the series that dictates what the gender of the noun would be. So in other words, if the last word is Karte, which would be a feminine noun, we have to have a feminine version. So that would be a female noun. So for example, we have das Land, the land, or the country, and then die Karte, female version of card. So here we would have to have die Landkarte for the compound noun of a map. It's literally a land or country card. Nummer 2. When do you use an E between nouns in the compound noun? In other words, certain times you're going to have to add an E in between the words. The easy way to tell here is that if there's an E at the end for a plural form of that noun, you're probably going to add an E before you add an extra noun to the end of it. So for instance, the word Hund. Hund is a dog. Whenever you have dog food, you would say Hundefutter. That's all one word, an E at the middle of it because it's dog's food in German, as opposed to dog food, which is singular in English. Nummer 3. When do you add an ER? This one's pretty easy. If we have an ER for the plural form, we also add an ER when we add an extra noun to the end of it. Nummer 4. When do you add an N between the compound nouns? Same answer. If the plural takes an N, add an N before you add an extra noun behind it. And the last one is exactly what you would expect it to be, but also an extra one. So when do you add an S? Well, if the plural takes an S, add an S. But you can also use this to show possession in the middle of a noun. So if this belonged to someone else, you would add an S and then that extra noun. In section 2, we're supposed to add words together to make compound nouns. Don't forget to change der, die, and das when it's necessary. First example here, we're going to take the word das Brot, neuter for bread, and also die Wurst, and add those two together. So we have das Wurstbrot, a sausage sandwich. It's das Wurstbrot, even though it's die Wurst, because the last one is the only one that really matters, which in this case is Brot. In our next one, we're going to take das Konzert and put it together with der Rock. In this case, we would have to have das Rockkonzert, the rock concert. Concert is neuter, so we have that at the end, and that happens to dictate our gender here. Das Rockkonzert, the rock concert. Now we're going to take the word Apfel, der Apfel, the apple, and put it together with der Kuchen, the cake. Both of them are masculine nouns this time, so it's always going to be der Apfelkuchen, the masculine apple pie. Now we're going to take the word der Fahrer, the driver, and put it together with das Auto. Auto is neuter, but since Fahrer is the last thing that's in our word here, we end up with der Autofahrer, the car driver. The next example is der Kocher, the cooker, put together with die Kartoffel, the potato. So we end up with der Kartoffelkocher, the potato cooker. In our next example, we have die Erdbeere, the strawberry, and das Eis, the ice cream. Together they become das Erdbeereis. Here you'll notice that we actually lost an E. Instead of having Erdbeere, which has an E, plus Eis, which also has an E, end up being das Erdbeereis. It's too many E's in a row, and so we just have Erdbeereis, as opposed to Erdbeereis. It just makes it a little bit easier to say, and you lost an E there. You will occasionally see this kind of thing when you take out extra letters. Our next example is die Karte plus das Land, which was my example from earlier. Die Landkarte, because Karte is feminine, and Land is neuter, which doesn't really matter here because Karte is the one that dictates what gender it takes. In this one we have die Geburt and der Tag. We're going to put these two together, making it der Geburtstag. And you'll notice we add in an extra S here. That has two reasons. First of all, it's the day of the birth, and so it's a possessive type thing. And also it would be very difficult to pronounce der Geburtstag. It's too many T's in a row and you just can't say it. So, der Geburtstag has an S in the middle. The next one we have die Spülmaschine and das Geschirr. Together they become die Geschirrspülmaschine, the dishwashing machine. Now we have some examples of just challenges that we can put together for random nouns. Now a couple of these you could have just used like an extra word in front of it and used it as an adjective instead of using it as a full word, but since this is about compound nouns, I chose to use these as compound nouns. So for example, the German book could have been das deutsche Buch, and it could have been 2 words, but instead we're going to say das Deutschbuch, the German book. Deutschbuch is 1 word and has Buch as the gender dictator here, so we have das Deutschbuch. The page of the German book would then be die Seite, the page, put together with das Deutschbuch. So we have die Deutschbuchseite, the page of the German book, the writing on the page of the German book. Here we're going to use the word Widmung, which is a feminine noun, die Widmung, for the writing on the page. So here we're going to have die Deutschbuchseite Widmung, the writing on the page of the German book. Nummer 4. The erasure of the writing on the page of the German book. This is where it gets to get a little bit more nonsensical. The erasure is the word that we're going to use here for löschen, which is das. It's neuter. So here we have das Deutschbuchseite Widmung löschen, the erasing of the inscription on the page of the book that is German. Now let's go back to something that's slightly less nonsensical, and that is dog food. Here we have Futter, which is das, and Hund, which is masculine. So we have das Hundefutter. Notice we added that extra E in the middle of it because Hund in the plural is die Hunde. Nummer 6. Here we want the taste of the dog food. So we would have der Hundefuttergeschmack. Geschmack is the taste and is a masculine noun, so it changed our gender from das Hundefutter to der Hundefuttergeschmack. Nummer 7. The school rock band. The word for a school rock band is actually die Schülerrockband. It's actually a student rock band. The word here, Band, is feminine because it's referring to a band like a musical band. There are also das and der Band, but let's just leave those alone to avoid confusion. The small step of the school rock band. So if the entire school rock band takes small steps together, that would be die Schülerrockband-Schrittchen, the small steps of the school rock band. Now we want to try something slightly different. We still have the small steps, but instead we're using the teenager in the middle of the word. So we end up with die Schülerrockband-Jugendlichen Schrittchen, the small steps of the teenager in the school rock band. If you wanted to just have the teenager in the school rock band, you could use Schülerrockband-Jugendlichen. And number 10, we have the favorite song of the teenager in the school rock band. This time we're going to add the word Lieblingslied to the end of all of that, so we end up with das Schülerrockband-Jugendlichen Lieblingslied. As I mentioned before, a lot of these are complete nonsense, and nobody would actually use a compound noun at this length. Most people would cut it off as like adjectives and stuff like that, as opposed to using all one word like this. However, grammatically speaking, you can do this. So, go around, have some fun with some German words, and just see what kind of German nouns you can make. Go ahead and try like a Leo or Baolinguist and just make up some random words. Look up a couple of nouns that you don't really know already and just kind of put them together and see what kind of words you can come up with. So come up with something like the unicorn fur glitter. I don't know. So it'd be like glitter made out of unicorn fur. You can probably come up with that based on just random words that you find in a German dictionary. Add them together, let me know what the gender is, and then write them down in the comments down below. That's all I've got for today. Thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and hit that button. In the meantime, I'm out of here. See ya.